whenever you plan a tournament, whenever certain teams are participating in a tournament, if the number of teams participating in a tournament is odd in number, now what exactly is seeding? Seeding is basically a special reservation given. These are essential points that you should have, or these are the essential elements that you should have before you start drawing a fixture. How many buys will be given if 15 teams are participating in a tournament? Now when you're studying this, when you're looking at this frame, I want you to pause this video for now, take a book and write down this formula, because it's important. As you move on in this chapter, you will be using this formula. So whenever you study mathematics, in this case, in this situation, in this chapter, we are handling a little bit of mathematics here. So I want you to have your notebooks and your pen by your side when you study this or see this further. Hello everybody, my name is Rohit. I take physical education on behalf of Prep School by Vidhyaashram. In today's class, we will cover the third session of planning in sports. So if you haven't seen already the first and second session, I recommend and I suggest you to go back and check that out first and then come back and resume this video. So let's start off with our third session and carry forward with the session overview and try to understand what all things we will be covering in this session. So starting off with the session, we will have procedure to draw fixture. So we will be learning to draw the procedure to draw fixture for different kind of tournaments in this, like knockout tournament and league tournament. Now in knockout tournament, you have just one method, but when it comes to league tournament, you have two methods, that is cyclic method and staircase method. So let's start off with the knockout tournament. But before we get into the knockout tournament straight away, let's try to understand certain key concepts that you need to know, that you need to understand before we jump into the fixture drawing and understanding the fixture for different kind of tournaments. So let's start off with first keywords that are required. First, you need to understand what is a buy, then you need to understand what is seeding, and then you need to understand what is special seeding. Now what exactly is buy? When you talk about buy in a fixture, a buy is nothing but a dummy slot given in a fixture. So knockout fixture is what? Whenever you plan a tournament, whenever certain teams are participating in a tournament, if the number of teams participating in a tournament is odd in number, then there will be always one team left out without any pair at the end when we make pairs to compete the team with each other, right? To avoid such a situation, we create a dummy slot. We create a dummy slot so that the number of teams participating in the tournament becomes even. So if there are 9 teams, if there are 7 teams, if there are 15 teams, or if there are 17 teams, in that case we give buy in order to balance the whole structure, or in this case to balance the whole fixture. So that is called as buy. Once again, what is buy? Buy is again a dummy slot that is given in case, again, if the number of teams participating in a tournament is odd in number. Now, hoping you understood what is buy, let's move on to our second keyword, that is seeding. Now what exactly is seeding? Seeding is basically a special reservation given in the fixture to certain strong team so that that particular team doesn't get eliminated early in the tournament. Now this may happen many times because when you balance a tournament, when you create a knockout structure or a knockout tournament, when you pair one team with another team for competition, you may end up maybe pairing up strong team with strong team or weak team with weak team. That way the whole structure or the tournament planning will go unbalanced. To avoid such a situation, we create seeding, where we make sure that the strongest team doesn't compete with each other until later time in the tournament, that is the quarterfinals or semi-finals. Okay, so keeping away the strongest team or keeping the strongest team at the different sides of the fixture is again called as seeding. If that is seeding, what do you mean by the next keyword in our keyword list, that is special seeding? Now what do you mean by special seeding? Special seeding is again when you directly reserve a seat or directly reserve a spot for a strongest team or a last year's champion team in the quarterfinals or semi-finals, so they don't have to again compete in any early rounds. So they will be not competing in any qualifiers, rather they will be directly getting into semi-finals or quarterfinals. Now, it may get a little confusing when we talk about seeding and special seeding, but let me try to give you a difference and make you understand understand the difference between both of them. What exactly is seeding? Seeding is reserving a seat for a strongest team. Seeding is reserving a seat or a spot for a strongest team in a structure. Now that seed, in the seeding case, it could be anywhere. It could be in the qualifiers, it could be in the semi-finals, it could be early in the first round or second round or any place. But in special seeding, it's either in the semi-finals or in the quarterfinals. So that's the difference. Special seeding is directly at a higher level. The reserved spot will be on a higher level, but seeding, they could put it anywhere. So even sometimes special seeding would be generally called as seeding. So that's the difference between special seeding and seeding. So hoping you understood speeding, hoping you understood again special seeding, let's move on to our next concept, that is again essential points for a knockout tournament. What all essential points you need to know about a knockout tournament? So the first one is the total number of teams participating in a tournament. That is important. Before you draw a fixture, before you draw a knockout fixture, you need to understand how many teams are participating in that particular tournament. After that, you need to know that the total number of buys, how many buys will be given in that particular kind of fixture. Now, how to find these buys, how to get into all that things, we will study later. But as of now, you need to keep in mind that these are essential points that you should have, or these are the essential elements that you should have before you start drawing a fixture, or before you start drawing a fixture for knockout tournament. So the third point is the number of teams in each half or quarter. The number of teams that is there in each half or quarter of the tournament, that also you should know. Then the number of buys to be given in each half and quarter, and the total number of rounds that the teams will be going through, and the total number of matches that will be held or conducted in the tournament. So these are the things that you need to know to conduct the fixture or draw the fixture. So these are the essential points for a knockout tournament. Now let's move on to our next concept, that is calculating the number of buys. Now, hoping you understood what exactly does the buy means. What is a buy? I will repeat it once again. I'll just give a quick recap. What is buy? Buy is a dummy slot that is given in case the number of teams participating in a tournament is odd in number, right? So if the number is 11, if the number is 7, if the number is 9, in these cases, again what will be given? Buy will be given. So let's see what all, here we will take an example and try to understand how to calculate buy in a tournament. So what is the steps? What all are the steps? Example number 1. How many buys will be given if 15 teams are participating in a tournament? So 15 teams are participating in a tournament. So 15 is what? 15 is a odd number. So buy has to be given. But how to calculate that buy? Now how to calculate that buy? First you need to see total number of teams that are participating. That's the first element you require to solve this problem. First element is total number of teams. That is 15 in number. So you have 15 number of teams participating in a tournament. Then you have to see the next highest number in the power of 2. The next highest number which is in the power of 2 closest to the total number of teams, which is the highest number in the power of 2 that is closest to number 15, that is the total number of teams participating in a tournament, that is 2 raised to the power 4, which is 16. So difference of that 16 and 15 will be a number of buys. So difference of 16 and 15 is what? 1. So 1 will be the buy. Hence 1 buy will be given in this particular kind of fixture. So in this particular kind of tournament, or in this particular kind of situation where 15 teams are participating, 1 buy will be given. So that's the procedure for that. Again, what is the step for that? First you have to see total number of team. Then you have to see which highest number in the power of 2, which is the highest number in the power of 2 coming closest to the total number of teams given, and you have to find the difference of that. That will be the total number of buys given in the fixture, or that will be the total number of buys. Now moving on to next, let's start off with understanding the method of calculating teams in each half. Like I said, we studied about essential things in a knockout tournament, right? There we studied what all things you need to know. There you need to know about, again, total number of bytes that are required, total number of teams that are required, total number of teams that are required in the upper half and lower half. So you already know and already studied about calculating the bytes. Now let's study about how to calculate the team or divide the team in each halves. How to do that? The formula is total number of teams plus 1 divided by 2. So what's the formula? Total number of teams plus 1 divided by 2. Now when you're studying this, when you're looking at this frame, I want you to pause this video for now, take a book and write down this formula, because it's important. As you move on in this chapter, you will be using this formula. So whenever you study mathematics, in this case, in this situation, in this chapter, we are handling a little bit of mathematics here. So I want you to have your notebooks and your pen by your side when you study this or see this further. Okay, so the first thing is upper half. So to calculate the upper half, what is the formula? Formula is total number of teams plus 1 divided by 2. And it means n plus 1 divided by 2. Now here understand that n means what? N means total number of teams, okay? Total number of teams is called as, again, n. So n means total number of teams. Now we will see each names and each variables, what does it mean, but here you understand, whenever in this chapter when you see n anywhere, n means total number of teams. So the formula for upper half, so formula to find how many teams will be there in the upper half out of the total teams, the formula is n plus 1 by 2. That is, if 11 teams are there, if 9 teams are there, example, if 9 teams are there, how many teams will be in the upper half? N plus 1 by 2, that is 10 by 2. What is it? 5. So 5 will be the total number of team in the upper half. Okay. What is the formula for the lower half? It is opposite of that. N minus 1 by 2. The formula for that is total number of teams minus 1 divided by 2. You will get again the teams that are supposed to be in the lower half. That is n minus 1 divided by 2. Please write this formula again. For lower half it is n minus 1 divided by 2. So total number of team was 9, right? So 9 minus 1 divided by 2, 8 divided by 2, you will again get 4. So total number of teams that will be there in the lower half is 4. Now let's take another example and try to understand it. Okay? Now let's take another example and try to understand it. Here in this situation, here in this example, let's see how many teams are there. How many teams will be kept in the upper and lower half if 11 teams are there? Now here you can see total number of teams that they have given is 11. The mathematics that they have given here, the math that they have given here is quite simple. The formula is quite simple, so you can do the mental calculation, right? What is the formula for the upper half? N plus 1 by 2. What is the formula for the lower half? N minus 1 by 2. So we can just calculate, right? N is what? Total number of teams. So total number of team is 11. That is n, 11. So 11 plus 1 by 2. 11 plus 1 divided by 2. You get again 12 divided by 2 equal to 6. So total number of teams in the upper half will be 6. So what is the formula for the lower half? N minus 1 divided by 2. So what is the formula again? Applying the formula, 11 minus 1 divided by 2, you get 10 divided by 2, that is 5. Clear? I hope the concept is clear. How to divide the division of teams in upper half and lower half. How do you divide the total number of team that is given to you in the upper half and lower half? This is the formula. Once again, please note. I hope you note it down. If you haven't taken it down, I suggest you please take it down. The formula for upper half is n plus 1 divided by 2. Again, formula for lower half is n minus 1 divided by 2. Now, moving on to next. Again, moving on to next, we have method of fixing bytes. Now, how do you fix bytes? Now, we will see the practical part of this while fixing bytes in the fixture later. But for now, I want you to take down each one of these rules. Okay? And that rule, when we go further in the video, I want you to see those rules in your notebook while I again apply these principles or these rules while drawing the fixture. Okay? So write down these rules. What are the rules? first rule is, then first by is given to the last team of the lower half. Now don't get confused by lower half or upper half. I already taught you every team. For example, if you have a 15 team, you have to again divide the whole 15 team in the upper half and lower half. Formula you already know, n plus 1 by 2, and for the lower half, n minus 1 divided by 2, right? So that's the formula for that. So the first by, you know how to calculate the by also. Difference between total number of teams and the highest number in the power of 2, which is closest to the total number of team. In the example that we took, we got 1, right? 16 minus 15, 1 you got, if you remember that. So the same formula you have to apply to find a by. So once you find a by, in that case you found only 1 by. But in certain cases you may find 6 bys or 5 bys or 3 bys. So here you can see that if in case if you have multiple bys, how to apply that in the whole fixture. The first by is given to the last team of the lower half, okay? The first by is given to the last team of the lower half. Please be careful, please listen this very carefully. The first by is given to the last team of the lower half. Second rule is, the second by is given to the first team of the upper half. What is it? The second by is given to the first team of the upper half. Then the third rule is, the third by is given to the first team of the lower half. Again, okay? What is it? The third by is given to the first team of the lower half. Then finally, you have the fourth by. The fourth by is given to the last team of the upper half. So that's a pattern that will be followed when you denote bys that you have in your fixture. Okay, so these are the rules. I hope you took it down, and if you haven't taken it down, I'll ask you to pause this video here and again write all these things down. Okay, now let's move on to the next one, that is again knockout tournament and knockout on the seeding basis. You already studied seeding, right? So you have now idea. So you have now the idea of seeding. So you now have the idea of by. You now have the idea of special seeding. So it won't be a problem for you to again use that in the fixture. So now let's take an example where we will be using that seeding concept over here. Okay. So you have to draw a fixture of 11 teams, out of which 4 teams are to be seeded. For that, first what we have to do? First we have to see how many number of teams are there. How many number of teams are there? 11 number of teams are there. Now we need to find bys. Second step is what? To find bys. So what is it? Number of bys is again 11. We already did the same example we took to make you understand how to calculate bys, right? So what is the next? What is the highest number in the power of 2? What is the highest number in the power of 2 coming closest to the total number of team here? What is the highest number? That is again 16. 16. That means again 2 raised to the power 4. 16. 16 is the next highest number closest to the total number of team. So 16 minus 11, you get 5. So total 5 bys we have here. Okay. So how many bys we have? We have 5 bys here. So next we have to see the total number of teams division in upper half and lower half. Total number of team you already have, right? So what all we have to find? We have to divide that team in upper half and lower half. What is the formula for dividing the upper half and lower half? That is n plus 1 divided by 2, and for lower half it is n minus 1 divided by 2. So total number of teams that we have over here is 11. That is 11 plus 1 divided by 2. We have 12 divided by 2, and you get 6. Got it? What is the second one? Second one is 11 minus 1. We are finding for the lower half now. 11 minus 1 divided by 2. You get again 10 divided by 2, and you have 5. Okay. So you have 10 divided by 2. You get 5. So this is the total number of teams that will be there in the upper half, and this will be the total number of teams that will be there in the lower half. Now moving on to next thing, that will be a totally new concept for you, that I am highlighting it separately. What is it? Now dividing the total number of bys in the upper half and lower half. So you know how to calculate the bys. You know how to calculate again how to divide the total number of team in the upper half and lower half. But you don't know yet how to divide the bys that you have. Total number of bys that you got is 5, right? The total number of bys that you got is 5 in this problem. So how to divide that by again to the upper half and lower half of the fixture? We will see that. So what's the formula for that? Formula for that is NB minus 1 divided by 2. For the upper half, what's the formula? Number of byes. Again, for the upper half, that is NB minus 1 divided by 2. Remember this, you may get confused here. I will tell you what confusion you may get and I will clear it. First, let's see how to calculate the division of byes in upper half and lower half. So for the upper half, the formula is NB minus 1 divided by 2. NB means what? NB means number of byes. So in the whole chapter, anywhere if you see NB, understand that means number of byes. So you got two abbreviations in the chapter. You have N and you have NB. N means total number of teams and NB means total number of byes. Please keep this in mind and hope you are writing all these things down. So NB minus 1 divided by 2. So NB, number of byes. What is the number of byes that we have here? That is 5. Okay. So 5 minus 1 divided by 2. That is 4 divided by 2. What do we have? What do we have? We have 2. So 2 will be the total number of byes that will be given in the upper half of the whole fixture. Now let's see what is for the lower half. Lower half, it is NB plus 1 divided by 2. That is again 5 plus 1 divided by 2. And what you will get? You will get 6 divided by 2. That is 3. So here you have the total number of teams that will be there in the upper half. Here you will have the total number of teams that will be there in the lower half. Here you will have total number of byes that will be given in the upper half. And here you have total number of byes that will be given in the lower half. Now I will talk about the confusion that you may get. Now if you look into the formula very closely, in both the situation, in both division of byes and division of teams in the upper half and lower half situation, you have some common elements. When you talk about upper half division in the formula of team division, that is N plus 1 divided by 2 when it comes to upper half. But when you do the calculation for the byes, it becomes NB minus 2 for the upper half. That confusion you may get. You may switch this, right? You may mistakenly do N minus 1 by 2 for the upper half. But that is for the lower half division of the team. So we are talking about two different things here. Okay? We are talking about two different things here. I'll divide this so you could understand. This is for the team division, and this what we are talking about here is for again byes division. Clear? We are talking about the byes division here in the bottom and teams division in the upper part of the screen. So you can see both the formulas here and you can make out what confusion you may get. When you talk about the division of teams, the upper half is using plus N plus 1, right? N plus 1 here you are using here. But when you talk about the lower half, when you're talking about the byes, for the upper half you are using NB minus 1. So keep it in mind when you're dividing the total number of teams into two different parts. When you're dividing the total number of teams into two different parts, for the upper half you will have N plus 1 divided by 2, and for the lower half you will have N minus 1 divided by 2. But when we talk about byes, division of byes in the two different part of the fixture, upper half and lower half, what you have to do here, it is NB minus 1 for the upper half and NB plus 1 is for the bottom half. So plus 1 will come for the bottom half when you talk about byes. So this confusion you may get. So that's what I was trying to explain you and tell you what confusion you may get when you practice this formula. That's why it is important for you to write down and practice these fixtures and to draw fixtures and calculate all these things to understand it better. Okay? Theoretically, reading and learning, this won't help you. This is a mathematics problem, so you have to write and solve it. So notebook and pen is required for that. So please do that. Okay? This is very essential. That's why I'm repeating the same thing and again and again. It is very essential for you to write down and learn these problems. Okay? Now since we all calculated whatever things are required for essential things that are required for the fixture. Now if you remember in the starting of this session, I taught you about essential things that are required for knockout. Remember, I taught you about essential things that are required for a knockout tournament. There you studied about teams in the upper half, teams in the lower half, byes in the upper half, byes in the lower half, all those things you studied. Now let's go back and try to see. Now let's try to see the fixture, how it will all come up. So you have the values. I hope you have taken the values. number of teams that will be there in the upper half is 6 teams. Number of teams that will be there in the lower half will be 5 teams. Okay, and number of byes that will be there in the upper half will be 2. Number of byes that will be there in the lower half will be 3, and total of number of match again we will be having is 10. Now total number of rounds, how many rounds we will be having? Total number of rounds. Total number of rounds again is the same power that you have taken. You have taken 2 to the power 4 when we calculated the byes over here, right, to get 16. So 4 times you have multiplied that 2, right? So the total number of rounds also will be based on that. So 2 into 2 into 2 into 2 you have done, right? So 2 into 2 into 2 you have done. So that's why we will get 4 rounds. Okay? So how many times you are doing, which power of 2 you are taking, based on that the total number of rounds will be decided. So since we took 2 to the power 4 to calculate the byes, so 2 to the power 4, that 4 will be again taken as the total number of rounds for the whole team. So number of seeded teams again will be 4. We will be taking total number of seeded. Now how did I find this? We didn't find this. It was already there in the question, if you notice the question, right? So already total number of teams is 11, out of which 4 teams has to be seeded. So seeding teams, you don't need to find that. You won't get a question to find the seeds or anything like that. That will be given to you. Okay, that value will be given to you. So total number of seeds that needs to be seeded is again 4. So total number of teams that is given is 11. So out of 11, 4 teams needs to be seeded, and out of that 5 teams are again 5 is the bye that we have to give in this fixture. Okay, so I hope you understood the calculation pretty well. It is already given here, but I again did it and try to make you understand the difference between the formula and the confusion that you may get. So given all this, let's move on to our fixture now. Now how the fixture will come for this particular kind of calculation that we did. So now as you can see over here, this is the fixture. You have total 11 number of teams over here, and in the knockout, why the name knockout is given to that particular kind of tournament, I have taught that in the second session. So again I'm reminding, if you haven't seen the second session of this chapter, I will tell you, please go back to the second session and watch this. You will get an idea, and this diagram that you're seeing here is not a diagram, it's a fixture, and it won't be a surprise for you. This diagram or this fixture won't be a surprise to you if you go and watch the second session of this whole series of planning in sports. Okay, so moving on to the fixture now. Now let's see. You can see that the number of teams are decreasing as we are going across each rounds. So every round certain teams are being knocked out. Certain teams are participating and competing with each other, and one team is being eliminated in each round. And each round, by the end of it, you will see over here you have finals and you will have the winner. Now what all things we found? We found byes, right? So how did we apply byes? These are the byes that is given here. Now you may ask, now division also we did for the upper half and lower half. We found total number of teams in the upper half should be 6 teams. So you can count and check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So 6 teams are there in the upper half. You can see total number of teams is 5 in the lower half. So you can see over here team 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. So total again 5 teams are there in the lower half. Then you can see the byes are given. I have denoted bye again over here. Now you will see that why bye is again given. Now you will also see that how the bye has been given or denoted here. Now you may ask the question, how do we give byes here? How do we give byes here? How do we randomly give byes here? Should we randomly put it anywhere that we want among these 11 teams, or there is a certain way to do that? Obviously there is a certain way. When I ask you to take your notebook out and write down certain rules, that rules you see, in that rules, the notebook that is kept in front of you right now, in that particular set of rules, you can see how to put this. So let me go back and try to show you those rules again and come back and forth and show you how each bye has been given to you according to the rules that we learned earlier in this session. Okay, so if you can see the rule over here, getting back to the session over here, method of fixing byes. Now flashback, did it came back to your mind? So we studied this and I asked you to write it down, right? Hoping you wrote it down. I'm still again explaining it. The first bye is given to the last team of the lower half. What is it? the first by is given to the last team of the lower half. You can see in the image, the first by is given to the last team in the lower half. So this is the lower half that you have. In the lower half, this is the last team that you have. So by is already given. So the first by is given to the last team in the lower half. Now moving on to the next rule. The second by is given to the first team of the upper half. The second by is given to the first team in the upper half. So you can see second by is given to the first team in the upper half. Can you see that? I hope you are understanding this, and I hope you are following the rule along with which I asked you to write. So the second by will be given to the first team in the upper half. Now getting back to the third rule that we have, the third by is given to the first team of the lower half. The third by is given to the first, again what is it? The third by is given to the first team of the lower half. The third by is given to the, what is it? The third by is given to the first team in the lower half. You can see over here, this is the third by. Okay, third by is given here. This is the third by that we have. So the third by is given to the first team in the lower half. Keep that in mind. Now let's get into the fourth one. Fourth rule. What do we have? The fourth rule. Fourth rule is, again you can see that the fourth by is given to the last team of the upper half. What is it? The fourth by is given to the last team of the upper half. This is the upper half and this is again the last team. So this is the number 4. Number fourth by, so that number fourth by is given to the last team of the upper half. So upper half we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 teams. In that 6 teams, again the last team is 6th, right? So the fourth by is given to this half. Okay, now we cannot stop here. And what is the last rule? It's important for you to understand the fifth rule. Okay, so what is the fifth rule that they have given? The next by or byes will be given in the same order as described. So whatever pattern you followed in these 4 rules, has to be carried forward for the further byes. That means according to this rule we cannot stop it here. We again have to start because we don't have total 4 number of rules. How many rules, how many byes we have? We have total, how many byes? We calculated it. How many byes we have? We have total number of 5 byes. So 5 byes we have. So 5 byes are there, but we have only denoted 4 byes. 1 more by is remaining. So what step did we follow? What was the first step? First step was we start off from the bottom. So first by will be given to the last team of the lower half. That means over here, if you can see, this stage is already given. Now next lower is this. So again the fifth by will be given here. That's why you can see over here the fifth by is given. Clear? I hope you understood how this by system is denoting is done, and I hope you understood all the rules, and I hope you took down the rules because it's important for you to learn that rule and practice. Suppose what if 10 byes are there? You have to keep on going and following the same pattern. Here you had only 5 byes. So you stacked up 5 according to the rule, right? So for the first 4 byes you will have a set of pattern. For first 4 byes you will have a set of pattern. But after the 4th by you have to repeat that pattern for the 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. Then 8th, after 8th again for 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. You will have to repeat it and it will come in cycle. The rule will come in cycle. Hope you understood this part of the whole series. This part of the whole knockout fixture method. How to draw a fixture and how to denote your again byes.